Hey, Sue. So, what are we cooking tonight?
Well, tonight it's Sue's famous stuffing.
Awesome. So, Sue actually had submitted her stuffing recipe to the Belly Rub recipe cookbook for the Humane Society. And tomorrow is our big book release party, and she is making the stuffing for the book release party. And I said that I wanted to learn how to do it. So, we thought this would be a fun way to learn how to make her recipe and show everyone else what it comes out like. So, make sure you buy that copy of the cookbook on sale at the Humane Society, just $20. So, Sue, first thing I saw you do was go over there and start that oven. So, what did we preheat it to?
400 degrees. First thing you need to do, there is a lot of steps to this process, but it's well worth it. Just make your regular old cornbread per the directions on the Jiffy box.
Awesome. All right, let's see you do it. I love it. Even the famous cook has to check the directions on the box sometimes.
It happens. I don't normally do directions because, well, that's just how I roll. I don't like to measure. So it's a problem.
I'm sure most cooks could agree with you on that.
I'm pretty sure most of us.
Yeah.
So it's 1 egg, 1/3 cup of milk, preheat your oven. And I'm not throwing things on the floor, there is a trash bag right there.
Thanks for clarifying.
Just to clarify. And don't forget, when you're measuring liquids, it's completely different than solids, so you need the appropriate measuring cup that looks something like this.
That's a mistake I definitely would make.
Totally different measurements, although there is a nifty one that Pampered Chef comes out with, and it's a dual.
Oh, that's cool.
So you can do your solids in one and your liquids in the other.
That's awesome.
And it's really neat. It's very beneficial when you're cooking a lot.
Very nice. So how much milk did we put in there?
1/3 of a cup per the instructions. And this will probably be the only time in this entire recipe you see anything in a measuring device or directions being followed. Just to be clear.
So we got to make sure we're paying close attention.
If you follow what's in the book, you can't go wrong.
Love it.
I, however, have been making it for so long that I just kind of do it.
This is true, folks. She's brought this stuffing into the shelter, and let me tell you, she's actually said that I have asked her to do this because I'm dying for her stuffing early and can't wait for Thanksgiving. Listen, she's right. Just don't tell her.
I think this is a ruse. I really do. Okay, so one of the things that I like to do that is not in the directions, because I don't like to follow those, so that's done. Okay, is I like to put about 3 tablespoons of softened butter into the pan that we're going to put the mix in, and then put that in the oven to melt and pour the batter over it. It just gives it so much more flavor. Oh,
Nice.
So if you're on any kind of diet, please stop watching now. Refrain from reading the directions at all, and do not consume. This is like 1,000 calories.
Wow. 1,000 calories of yumminess.
So while that's happening, we've got this. All right. And then let's put our butter back over here. That goes here. And we're going to start cooking the sage sausage. I get it from Jimmy Dean. Sometimes Walmart has it. Sometimes Publix has their own brand, but it's usually seasonal. So you can't always get it.
So that makes sure that the stuffing is a special time of year.
Now, like I said, it has a lot of steps, so it's slightly complicated. I don't think it is, but that's me. So what we do is we go ahead and we put our sausage in our pan. And we start this cooking. And I usually like to do it on medium. And now that that's done, your butter. Once it's completely melted, and it does take a few minutes to do that. Once it's melted, then you can go ahead and pour your batter in. Okay. So this has been contaminated with meat, so we won't be using that again. And next up is cutting of vegetables, apples, and then we're gonna have some white wine.
Ooh.
And chicken broth. It's gonna be amazing. And some butter to saute all of it together. So check back in a few minutes.
3.
All right, our butter's been melted. We've got our sausage started on medium heat, and you just kind of let that keep going, and I'll show you in a minute. I like to have smaller pieces in my recipe, and if it doesn't always come out when I cook it, my trick is to put it in a food processor, just give it a couple pulses so that it's just a touch smaller in chunks so that you're not overwhelmed by sausage in every single bite.
You know, after trying your stuffing last year, some of the things that you have set out for ingredients, I would have never actually known was in there.
Apples, white wine, sausage. I don't think
it all goes really well together.
It does. So I'm going to have to come over here and drop that and pull this. And this you just bake to the instructions, and I do believe off the top of my head it's 30 minutes. No, I apologize, 20 minutes. So you're just going to do this. Don't worry about all that extra butter on the sides, because what's going to happen is when it spreads out, floats up, you're going to get this beautiful float of like butter on the top. That is definitely not a bad thing. So we're finished with this.
Oh, for the ones of you that don't know, yeah, most pans hold the spoons. She just taught me that.
So like I said, when you're cooking your sausage, you just need to kind of go back and forth and be mindful that it is cooking. So you need to cut it up really well and just keep stirring. All right, so now what we're going to do is just wait while this happens.
Awesome.
See you in about 20 minutes.
Hey, Sue, it's been 20 minutes. So what's going on now?
All right, so we have our cornbread that's been in the oven. It's nice and brown and crispy around the edges, but not too brown because that would be burnt and that would be bad. And our sausage is crumbled perfectly. So we're going to start by taking the pan, and you're just going to dump your sausage in there. Don't worry about the grease. Like I said, it's 1,000 calories, and there's really not that much in here. So it's really not going to hurt anybody's feelings or maybe arteries, but not that much if you use in moderation. So then we put this back, and next we get ready to start cutting.
All right.
So.
I'm excited for this part.
So, before I forget, you must toast more bread.
Ooh.
So this goes in the oven. I've turned it down to 350.
Okay.
And we just slide this in and kind of let it toast. You got to check on it every couple of minutes because we want toast, not burnt things. So this just we set to the side and we're done. So now we start cutting our apples, our onion, and our celery. I cannot stress to you enough how important it is to wash your fruit. It is where most of the bacteria comes from when you're cooking, your onions, your celery, all that stuff. So if you would like to give your friends and family a gift for the holidays of food poisoning, please feel free to not wash your fruits and vegetables.
Good advice.
All right, so we're going to take a few minutes to get all this rinsed off, and then I'm going to start dicing. All right, so now we're going to cut our vegetables. The biggest thing you have to know about cutting an onion is that they're round, so they will roll away if you are not careful. You cut the top off, put it face down. Oh, look, nice and stable.
I like that.
All right, then you cut it halfway through the root system, you leave it all on, and then you peel back the layers that you don't want, like so. And if you know your way around the kitchen, you know this technique.
I have to admit, I have been doing it wrong my entire life.
Mandy, my husband is also amazed every time I do it. He watches it, and then I ask him to go ahead and cut an onion for me, and then it just turns into some sort of massacre that, because he was in the Navy, I forgive him for. Because those boys, they're lost at sea. They have no idea what's going on.
Understandable.
All right. So get all these itty bitty pieces out. All right. You're going to cut it the long way first, all the way through. Please make sure to keep your fingers tucked back so that you do not end up with a nail or perhaps something worse in your food. I don't like to waste, so I cut all the way down, and this is done. Next up, celery.
Awesome.
All right, celery is pretty easy. You just chop off the less than desirable parts because they're all dry. Who likes dry things when they should be soft? Nobody. These white pieces, they're not always the best flavor, and they're just way too big, so that goes. Done. You can dice it smaller or larger depending on how you want it, but if you saute them the way I'm about to, it doesn't really matter. You don't have to get specific. Just try to keep it in even slices, because if it's not even, it won't cook right. You'll end up with some soft, some hard, and then something in between that's just not even right. So now I'm going to go ahead and rinse off my knife, and we're going to move over to the apples.
Perfect.
Okay, so I've rinsed off my knife and my cutting station, and I've got this handy dandy little tool right here. This is an apple corer. If you don't have one in your house and you have kids, you need one of these.
Yes, I do.
Now, this might be awkward because I'm short and a little bit on the older side. Yep, definitely awkward.
Come on, Sue, put your back into it.
I hope everybody's enjoying that. So this is like my little cheat to get get over there. To get this out. Not the seed. We don't want that. You do this with both apples. Take this out. Boop, done. And then if you have anything like this, that hard core with the seed, you just cut that out. Watch your fingers. This knife might be slightly larger than what I need for this, but, you know, go big or go home. And then you just dice these similar to the way you did the celery, just to the preference. But just try to keep everything even.
Awesome.
All right.
So to be specific, you did dice up that whole onion, and you are going to do 2 apples.
Yes, we are going to do 2 apples and the whole onion, and then 3 of the celery stalks, or 4. I don't know. You've got the video. Check it out. Once these are all diced, they go into the pan as well, and then I'll show you what I use to saute. All right, so we've got everything diced and cut up in here. You've got your celery, your onions, and your apples. Yes, I know it seems weird to put sweet things with savory things, but I promise you, it's going to blow your mind when you're done. So, what you want to do is go ahead and turn it back to medium. Put your butter in. All right, you got that? Then you add just enough broth. It will tell you how much in the recipe. Like I said, I'm really bad at following constructs of measuring. I just don't like it. Your white wine. Some pepper. And because the broth has salt in it, I don't add, excuse me, I don't add any extra, because you can always add more salt later, but you cannot take it away. And once you've made that mistake, trust me, you just don't want to do it. All right, so remember how we put that bread in the oven? Hopefully nobody forgot about it. So we're getting a nice toasted bread. This probably still needs a few minutes. Don't touch hot things, people. No, actually we're good.
Awesome.
But for personal reference, please do not put your hands near hot pans. That was my bad.
Should always use those nifty pot holders. Sue, you want to tell us about your pot holders?
Not really. They're kind of embarrassing.
So Sue said her pot holders are trusty and they have seen lots of recipes. And if anybody wants to get her anything for Christmas, new pot holders are the greatest gift.
It's really kind of sad because they all have something that has either burned through it or I've cut it with something. Lord only knows what I've done to these things, but they're faithful and I love them.
Awesome.
Okay, so now that we've got our chicken broth and our white wine and our butter in here, you just need to start to simmer and cover. And you do that for about, I want to say like 15 minutes or so, and check it. So once we do that, we'll check back. Okay, so these have simmered for about 15 minutes, and you can see everything's nice and soft. I don't know about you, but when I eat stuffing, I have a texture problem, and I would like my hard vegetables to be soft so it matches the bread and the sausage and everything just blends together. I get something crunchy and I'm like, oh, what was that? So I don't do that. So after these have simmered and they're nice and soft, you add just a little bit of garlic. You don't want to put it in too soon because garlic, when it's minced like this, will burn. And there we go. So you mix that in. The more garlic for me, the better, but for the purposes of this video, I just went with a little bit.
Oh, it smells so amazing.
All right, so this is just gonna set, kind of do its thing, and let all of the liquid kind of evaporate so that there's a little bit of thickness to the sauce. So we're just gonna keep that kind of on our back mind. Then we're gonna come over here. There's 3 different kinds of bread in this stuffing. I refuse to buy anything in a bag because, no. So, it's 1 wrapper of saltines, 5 pieces of toasted bread that we did not burn, and our cornbread. Mind you, the utensils have been washed again, as well as the cooking surface, or the cutting surface. So you just basically cut your own croutons, just like you would for a salad. And they're going to get messy, but the great thing about cooking is that it doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to taste good. So you do this. Bread's in. Slice your cornbread up. Again, just try to keep things even. Once it goes in and you see what happens before it goes in the oven, it's really not going to matter how pretty it is. So I wouldn't worry about that much. Boop. And there you go. So that's your cornbread. Hold on. I got a special trick for this one. During the holidays, if you have anger issues, feel free to take it out on your packed crackers. I'm not going to judge you, and nobody knows the difference. They just think you're cooking. Oh, Aunt Bess, I can't believe you brought your drunk husband to the festival. All right. Now remember, oh dear, I made a mess. Done.
Good thing the trash can's there.
Exactly. All right. So, now it's a little large, that one there. Kind of ad hoc. Now remember, the stuffing is got the sausage on the bottom. So you just put all of this on top of it. Your bread, your homemade croutons, and then your saltines. All right. And then we're done with that. Unfortunately, this will no longer come in handy as bludgeoning relatives is against the law. Frowned upon. And I don't care what state you're in. So that's done. This has been sitting back here doing its beautiful thing. As you can see, the liquid is much thicker. And all that is butter, chicken broth, and white wine. So now what we're going to go ahead and do, take this off the oven. Metal handles get very, very hot. Please remember to use the appropriate PPE so as not to burn your hand. Again, my poor little muffin mitts. So you pour this on top of all of that goodness. You Scotland artist. Back in there. All right. So unfortunately, I think I've overstuffed this pan just a touch, but not to worry. So you stir this up a little bit, not too terribly much, because when you add in your liquids, it'll all kind of meld together, and that's when you're really going to start stirring it. All right, so you got all that in there. You're going to add your craisins at this point. You don't have to put craisins in, but, I mean, seriously, cornbread craisins, who doesn't want that?
Oh, it looks so good already.
All right.
It smells great.
Rubbed sage. We'll use the shaker. Oh, oops, there is none. So we'll use the old-fashioned method.
About a palmful. Sprinkle it on. It's the way the real cooks do it.
All right, I think we need a little more, because I did kind of overestimate for this pan. Okay, now I've got that. Next, you add chicken broth. And heavy whipping cream. I told you before, this is not for people on a diet.
Wow.
All right, so you stir all this up. See how it's kind of melding together already, just being wet? It's actually very helpful when you've overfilled your pan, because everything just kind of melts together. So you mix all of this together. And when it resembles something that you may or may not have eaten already today, we're not going to be vulgar about it, then you know you've got the right consistency, which is just not quite right yet. So yeah, a little bit more chicken broth. Give her a stir. I'm not on a diet, so a little extra heavy whipping cream doesn't hurt anybody. Haha. Now we're getting to the consistency that we like it. It might look alarming, but fear not. When you eat it, you'll be very happy. So
She's telling the truth. I have tried it.
And every year, somebody's like, what's the recipe? And then I have to print 10.
Hey, speaking of recipes, Sue, we were just talking about our rubber ducky that's hidden somewhere in this video. Do you want to tell our viewers about our rubber ducky challenge?
So if you can find the duck and identify said duck, then I will go ahead and send you a copy of my spinach dip, which, just to be clear, is also not for anyone on a diet. Don't even look at it, because there is an entire block of cream cheese in there, Alfredo sauce, well, I'm not going to give it away now, but it's amazing.
It is amazing. I know what it is, and I absolutely love it.
So now that we've got this done, we're going to cover it. And you're going to bake this bad boy for about 30 minutes. So we'll get back to you after that. Okay, so it's been about 35 minutes. So now what we need to do is check what's going on in our oven. You're going to pull this out. Don't forget, everything's really hot, so now is not the time to take off the trusty mitts. Again, I apologize. They're not the most beautiful things, but they've served me well for many, many years. So you pull your aluminum foil off.
Oh, what were you telling me about the aluminum foil? There's a trick to it.
There's two sides to aluminum foil. Your matte side is what you're going to use for absorbing. So if you're going to do a baked potato, you wrap it matte side out, shiny side in, so that it absorbs the heat, and then the shiny side just kind of reflects it back down.
Awesome.
So what you see here is we're about 35 minutes in, and this recipe does call for an hour to an hour and a half baking time. So what we're going to need to do at this point is stir it. All right. A little old lady spatula out here. This was actually my mother's.
Aww.
And once upon a time, when I did wrong, I did not want the business end of this. So you stir it, get it all mixed in, and then you're just going to cover it back up. Because once again, it's going to look a little unappetizing. But once it's all cooked and melded together, and it's got that nice brown top on it, which sometimes I like to, and it's not in the recipe, I like to just give it a little broil at the end to get a nice crisp crust on it. But that's an option that you may or may not want to use. So you just mix everything back up. Make it all nice and pretty again. It's done. Recover. And now we wait for a whole nother hour. Okay, so we have about 18 minutes left on our timer from an hour. So what we're going to do, we took it out. We're going to peel this off. And you see how it's starting to brown, and you've got all the bubbling around the edges. That's exactly what you want it to look like. So now what we do is we take it and we put it back in for the next 20 minutes, and hopefully we can get it a little bit more crisp, but not too much. And then we're done.
Yes! And we get to enjoy it. And
Now,
it goes.
if you feel like it's going to spill over, you can always put a larger sheet pan underneath it so you don't mess up your oven. I have 4 children, 5 cats, and a husband, so I'm not really concerned about my oven being dirty because I live here.
And we've outlasted her husband. It has been
Oh yes, the poor dear. He's snoring over there.
It's been a long evening. There is a lot of steps to this process.
So now we just wait for the following 16 minutes and 57, 6, 5. Alright, so on a side note, you're going to notice a picture of Monty in the cookbook. This is my very first save from the Humane Society, and He is just the best orange boy ever in the whole world, and he fits in perfectly with our home.
Oh,
And I love him forever. Forever and ever. And I'm telling you, my love for orange boys, it's just epic.
He's a really good boy. If y'all are looking to add a new family member, please make sure that you check out the Humane Society. We have lots of amazing kitties, just like Monty here.
Oh, and Monty's quite finished with me now. He said, Mom, that's great, but I'm done now. So
and we also have some amazing dogs available for adoption.
All right, Monty says bye.
Bye.
Okay, so everything is starting to smell really done. So this is a great point to just go ahead and double check, even though we have 4 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock remaining. Like I said, it takes between an hour to an hour and a half. So there's wiggle room. And all ovens are very different. And
oh my gosh, that looks so good.
so we're done at this point. The only thing that we need to do, and you can see how it wiggles a little. That's perfect. That's what you want. So at this point, you just need to set that out and let that rest for a minimum of 20 minutes because you see all the sizzling of all the yumminess.
Oh, guys, it smells so good. Oh, I can't wait.
So once you've gotten to this point, you have successfully made my stuffing. Now you just have to let it cool, finish melding, and enjoy.
I cannot guarantee that this is going to make it to the book release tomorrow.
If I leave it in my house, my children and my husband may or may not eat it. And if I send it home with Mandy,
Mandy may not eat it.
So there you go.
Well, thanks, Sue. It's been so much fun. I look forward to our next video.
Well, let's see what happens.
Find that ducky, guys.